The Angry Chicken Hearthstone podcast is produced by amove.tv. Check out amove TV for more podcasts covering Blizzard games. For more of Jocelyn's gaming podcasts, visit jossplays.com. And to find many more podcasts with Ridiculous Hat, follow @RidiculousHat on Twitter. Every episode of TAC is made possible thanks to our legendary patrons over at patreon.com/TAC.
Time's up. Let's do this.
Legendary!
You face Jaraxxus. You smell like a leper gnome. I knew it. So hot.
A podcast about Hearthstone and Battlegrounds. This is The Angry Chicken!
Someone get Ben Brode on the line because we need to change that line to traditional Hearthstone. Welcome back, everyone. This is TAC. I'm Garrett Weinzierl, here as always with Jocelyn Carney and Ridiculous Hat. Welcome back, you two. How goes the long wait for Mercenaries?
It goes.
It's all right. We're closer now than we were last time.
That's
how it works, I guess.
Does it feel like the week before entirely new game mode gets added to the game? The answer is yes. There ain't no Hearthstone news right now.
Oh, I see what you were getting at. I thought you meant like the hype level, and I was like, well, maybe. I don't know. I'm finding it a little bit tough to get hyped this time.
I have enjoyed the mix of like excitement and unexcitement, because in my very, very close circle, Hat excluded, not a lot of hype. A lot of like, I don't usually play these types of games. Not sure if it's for me. As someone who was playing auto chess when Battlegrounds was announced, I was like immediately stoked. It helped that I was at BlizzCon. I could immediately go play the game and figure out that it was great. This time around, like the more I kind of looked around, and especially once some other creators actually posted some just straightforward gameplay that we got to look at. I've been hearing from so many more people who are legit stoked for the mode. And I know we talked about it already, but I think, after seeing gameplay, I think it helped a lot. And I don't know, over the past couple of weeks, like my at least finger on what I thought was the pulse of the community at large, like my read on that situation is like completely changed. I've heard from so many more people that are either A, excited about this and have never played games like this, or B, do play games like this and are excited about it as well, which I figured those already existed, but I hadn't heard from any.
Yeah, they did put out that extra like little explainer announcement video. It was like 4 minutes long. And I felt like that kind of put Mercenaries' best foot forward in a much better way. It was like, hey, this is what it is, and this is what you do, and this is how you play, and these are the things you can upgrade. And I was like, this was a lot easier to follow. Like, I think by the end of everything else that they'd put out, I had kind of gotten the gist of it, but it was a struggle.
Yeah. I as we're nearing, we're standing on the precipice of Mercenaries launch, I think this is one of the rare times where I think it was more confusing to be very close to the game.
I can see that. Like just too much information in general.
Yeah.
And also, something that I've noticed a lot in the Hearthstone sphere lately, and this is not Mercenary specific, it's kind of tough to have a dissenting opinion right now and feel like it's worth sharing it. And this is not just Mercenaries, but definitely Constructed too. I think that there are kind of these cascading reactions where someone says something, like someone influential says something, and then people kind of come out in support, and then there's another bandwagon that's kind of against it right now, and whichever one you end up being washed up into, either you agree or you stop talking because engaging is not valuable. we talked about this like last week, the pro quest, anti quest debate.
Mm.
Um, being in the wrong spot for that at the wrong time feels unpleasant. And I imagine if you were excited by Mercenaries on day one, first of all, it was hard to even get acknowledged. And second of all, why say when everyone's talking about how upset they are, how excited you are when you're just going to get shouted down and responded to negatively for having a dissenting opinion? It's there's a lot going on with Blizzard now, but I think that even if we go back to like the rewards track, when there were people that were like, maybe this could be a good thing, they were just shouted down or even bullied to a degree, like, to some degree on the dislikes were strong on YouTube, on Twitter, on Reddit, whatever, trying to come up with something positive there didn't get met with a lot of positive engagement. So I'm not
Mhm.
surprised now that the ire has wound down. The people who have been excited the whole time can finally share it because the bandwagon peanut gallery has kind of cooled off.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good place to put it, right? Like I don't I wouldn't I wouldn't put myself into the hype camp. I think I've just at this point spent enough time kind of talking about my concerns, of which there are many. We did a whole episode where 2/3 of this program spouted concerns. Hell, three out of three. But I think Hat, you were more balanced
Cautiously
than Joss and I.
optimistic.
But yeah, like at this point, I'm like, well, there's really nothing left to do but play it and see what it's like. That's where I'm at. I'm at the train station and I'm waiting for the Mercs train to arrive.
Yeah, I'm still. I'll admit it. All of the videos have, I guess, like reinforced some of my earlier opinions, because the thing that threw me off the most about the mode was very much the gameplay itself, and just like, to me, it's just so visually empty. And I haven't seen any gameplay that's changed that view for me at all. It's like you've just got your little dudes in the middle and then the other little dudes in the middle, and that's so much extra screen space that I don't feel like, yeah, it's usually the visuals is what draws me in, and like, I don't know, it just feels too little. And I know it's because it's meant for mobile and I don't play on mobile, so
Yeah, I share that thought too. It's still, I think it looks visually just a little odd.
Mhm.
But I don't know, maybe it'll make more sense when it's actually on my damn monitor.
Yeah, and maybe the gameplay loop will be something that'll pull me in. So I don't know. I'm just it's been long enough now. And it's so funny because like at first we were like, oh, it's been so long. Why haven't they told us anything? And then they finally told us stuff. And then we were like, oh, you probably shouldn't have told us stuff.
They shouldn't have
Yeah.
told us that stuff.
And
Like,
now it's been so long since then that I'm just like, oh man, it's still not out.
It's
Like,
yeah,
whew.
it is odd. And we got into some of this, but at the end of the day, it's like when they showed us original Hearthstone, which I remember, and I've told the story before, like when they first showed Hearthstone, any Hearthstone at all, back in 2013 at PAX, Ben Brode came out, like announced it, and then shoutcasted a Hearthstone match. I was just like, this seems like small potatoes for the company that gave us World of Warcraft, like making a card game. Like, I like card games, but seems a little beneath Blizzard. That's like how I felt at the time. And I am more than happy to share this because God, I was wrong. God, I was wrong. But like, it helped to just see it play out. I still had to play it. But we sat through that Mercs presentation, and there just wasn't just straightforward gameplay. It was a major info dump, but I was overwhelmed. And so seeing folks like Crip and Slissa play through it, and seeing that it's definitely going to have kind of that universal introductory Hearthstone experience of it's going to start real simple and teach you the basics, and it's going to ramp up. I don't know. It did a lot to calm me the hell down because I was pretty much like, this isn't for me, and like just kind of like, all right, what's happened over in Battlegrounds? I was pretty dismissive pretty quick after the announcement. And so I don't know. I've had so much time, like I said, and like you mentioned, had to kind of reach the end of things to say that now I'm like, I'm letting myself just get ready to try something new and just like actually have my own opinion based on having freaking played the thing.
Yep. And I think the thing that we can say now that we've seen a lot more footage come out is that there doesn't seem to be effort that this was rushed and low effort. That this is something that they just slapped into the client to put it there. They wouldn't have delayed it multiple times if they didn't want to put energy into it. The designs, when you look over all the mercs that have been revealed on the site, there's a lot of depth to the mechanics. I think we can pretty safely say this is not cash grab out of nowhere, because if it was, it would have been in the game in February. From what I can tell from the gameplay that we've seen, there's a lot of energy into like the voice lines and the characterization. There's a lot of depth to how many mercs are in the game, whatever. I'm curious to see it. We won't know till we get to play it. Week's not that far away. I am glad as well that it's time for when it is. I would like to have a mini set, of course, and I think it's a little bit of a bummer the mini set got delayed. But 2 months through a 5-set meta is a perfect time to give something else to do, because I think a lot of people are pretty tired of dying to fireballs and want something else to do.
Yeah, I think that's probably where some of my like ness comes from, is the lack of the mini.
Wait, hold on.
So.
Can we get a Joss Carney Roy Kent impression? I want to hear your best Roy Kent grunt right now. That was pretty good.
I love Roy Kent.
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't?
Yeah. Oh, that last episode. I need the finale.
I know.
Better
I
end that
know.
finale happy. I can't
handle it.
I can't wait a year on how sad I felt after the last episode. I can't do it. But we're not here. We're not here to be another podcast that tries not to talk about Ted Lasso. Yeah, we're just trying to F fireballs, man. I'm sick of not having things on my board because of like fell barrage. That's what I'm sick of. That's what I'm sick of.
So how was Latter Day, Garrett?
I don't want to talk about it. It ended
Demon
quickly. You should ask, how quickly did you go to Battlegrounds today? And the answer was 3 games. 3 games.
Oh.
Yeah. Anyways, there has been some other things going on. This is a bit of a smorgasbord of things that we're going to be talking about today. Before we get to it, I want to thank those of you supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC. As we have mentioned in the past, we are an entirely independent podcast. We don't get paid in BlizzBucks or dollars from anyone that has anything to do with the game that we cover. So we are supported by our patrons over at patreon.com/TAC. And if you go and sign up over there, well, not only will you be supporting us, and you can do so for $1 or more, you'll also get access to our patron-only Discord and an ad-free version of the show for your trouble. So go check it out. And we have a new patron to thank this week, which is Alan. Simply Alan. I like to think it's Alan Grant. So thank you for taking a break from running for your life from velociraptors, which were actually closer to Deinonychus than actual velociraptors. And taking a moment to go sign up over at patreon.com/TAC. And I think this might be like the 6th week in a row where we haven't like missed a new patron from week to week. So we're on a bit of a hot streak. So thank you. Thank you all so much for like every week we get at least one new patron. That means the world to us. So keep it going. Might have a bonus thing where we've been working on in the background. And we can't wait for y'all to enjoy that thing. That's all I'm going to say. Cheers, everybody. And other than that, I also want to mention that we will be recording on Tuesday next week so that we have a chance to talk about Mercenaries, hopefully early in the day rather than later. So look for a new episode of The Angry Chicken next Tuesday as opposed to Monday evening as usual. So most folks we hear from, you're grabbing it before your Tuesday work day. If it will not be there in the morning. It will be there later in the day for you. Yeah. So just wanted
I'm not getting up that early, so you can blame me.
I don't think Mercenaries is getting turned on that early.
Yeah,
so.
I don't think Mercenaries is getting up that early either.
Yeah.
They called me and said, will you get up early so we can put the mode out sooner? And I said, no, I'm sleeping in.
Oh, in that case.
And it is all Hat's fault.
Would you like me to redact that because I feel like there's some folks that would
No.
be. Oh, no?
Come at me.
Do you want to have like a
at me.
John Wick fight scene, like where folks invade your home?
No, I want to
and-
defend the benefits of self-care and a good sleep schedule, even though I recognize saying that out loud that's very hypocritical, but like I want to pretend like I get enough sleep and help other people get enough sleep. It's fine.
Fair. And hey,
Tuesday afternoon.
yeah. Speaking of that ad-free feed that we mentioned during our patron thanks, we have a sponsor today to thank, and that is Raycon. They are back sponsoring this episode of The Angry Chicken. You should go check out their offerings over at buyraycon.com/TAC. You know, there's a lot going on right now, you know, whether it's the stuff you're excited about, like getting weirdly sad watching what's supposed to be a comedy called, you know, Ted Lasso, or, you know, stuff you'd rather not think about, like the fact that I've got a big group assignment that I just turned in, and it's for my master's course, and I'm just sitting here wondering how much I'm going to get dinged for APA 7th edition styling, because I finally hit my first instructor that gives a damn about that stupid thing that has nothing to do with actually learning.
Me too.
Yeah. You just, the point is, you can't always control the vibes out there, but you can always control the vibes in your head with a pair of Raycon wireless earbuds in your ears. Whatever you want to be listening to, whatever you want taking over. When it's schoolwork for me, I've gotten into ambient, which is something I've always made fun of. Always. I've always made fun of ambient. Anytime I was over at a friend's house and ambient was playing, I was like, I thought we were here to hang out and have a good time. Why are you trying to play me out of the venue? But turns out ambient has its place, and it really helps me get through my schoolwork. So I've had my Raycons in, and I've been just playing the living crap out of ambient music because I have to write. I can't have as much as I love. I am still a 1998 kid at heart. I want ska and Blink-182 just constantly in my ear. I can't have words. I can't have words when I'm writing. So it's been ambient lately. So go check it out. If you follow me on Spotify, you're going to see that repeated over and over again. I have the same playlist. So, I can keep going because Raycon offers 8 hours of playtime and a 32-hour battery life, and it recharges in its little pod. Yeah. Listen, I know you know this, but when I got my Raycons, this is the first time I've ever had wireless earbuds or ones that recharge. And I was like, oh, this is so cool. It just recharges when it goes in the little case. It's great. So you should go check them out. There's a built-in mic. You can take calls while these are still in your ears, and they start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good. And they come with a 45-day happiness guarantee. So right now, go check them out because TAC listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/TAC. That's buyraycon.com/TAC to save 15% off on Raycons. Again, that's buyraycon.com/TAC. And now, let's discuss this week's Hearthstone news.
Good news, everyone!
There's been some leaving this past week on the making Hearthstone side of things and the playing Hearthstone really, really well side of things. Which is, I still think that should be what Grandmasters should be called. Let's get rid of Grandmasters as the name and call it playing Hearthstone really, really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would like that. But I guess let's start by talking about losing a member of Team 5, which is the name of the development team for Hearthstone. Alec Dawson is moving to other Blizzard pastures. Staying within Blizzard, going the way of the, I guess we call this going the way of the Wayland.
Which, I mean, yeah, we haven't heard anything from him since he left Team 5. I don't even know if he's still at Blizzard. I assume that they all still are. If they haven't made some sort of like, hey, I'm leaving post, I assume that means they're still there. But yeah, they just go off into the ether. They're just like silent and away and everything else. And I would hope, because I feel like when Peter left, that was like, what, like 2018 maybe? Like it feels like it was a little bit ago now.
It has been a while.
Yeah. They've got
All
to
right,
have something soon,
it's
right?
been a while. I have a date as to when that happened.
Oh no.
January 2020.
No.
So
no.
okay,
Oh.
but
No
hold
way.
on.
No, shenanigans. You're lying.
On the one hand,
Wait,
okay,
wait,
so
hold
first
on,
of all,
hold
that's
on. So
almost 2
you're
years.
telling me that Peter Whalen leaves, we get busted demon hunters and a pandemic.
Yes.
Are
All
you blaming
because
Peter Whalen
Peter
for the
left
worst year
Hearthstone.
in actual history and Hearthstone history?
I'm not blaming him, but I can't excuse him.
I can't believe that was a year and a half ago. Like, I call super
It's
shenanigans, not normal
it's
shenanigans, super shenanigans.
a year and 9 months
Ugh.
ago. Yeah, it's a year and
Still,
three
like,
quarters.
I would
So
have sworn up and
yeah,
down it was like this time 3 years ago or more.
Hey, Hat, what's that restaurant you like with
yeah.
all the goofy shit on the walls?
Shenanigans. Talking about shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
We're gonna quote. I'm resisting the urge to quote the rest of that scene right now. Super Troopers, for those that are unfamiliar, great movie. Yeah, it was pre-COVID, so about a decade ago. But that was also remember that Donay was heavily involved in the development and release of Battlegrounds, which was BlizzCon 2019,
Oh,
and
yeah,
then
yeah.
he
No, not
left.
donate.
Yeah,
Waylon. When did Waylon
right.
leave?
Wayland was around that time, and Donay was a couple months after.
Mm.
Those were the first two principal game designers that we heard about. They both came from Hearthstone. They went to unannounced. Now, there are so many rumors going on about multiple unannounced projects. We don't know that this is where Alec went, but another Hearthstone designer a couple years later going to an unannounced project. If that's still going, I would guess that's where he went, but that's not based on information other than,
Just
well, what did we just
conjecture.
said out loud? Yeah. Yeah.
That was
So,
kind of the
no, we
second wave after the second dinner exodus, I would say. Like
guess so. When
Wayland
was
and
that? That was Witchwood-ish? That was
I think Witchwood was the last like
2018.
announcement we had. Was that the last announcement video we had with Ben Brode in it? I think it was.
It was 2018, early 2018. Yeah, because Brode left in April or May of
In
18.
yeah, April. April
Yeah.
20th of 2018. So Google tells me.
Yeah. So we've
Mm.
kind of had like two big waves of talent, like we know, like if you're plugged into Hearthstone, like talent you're very aware of, leaving the development team. And I would say Alec leaving is on that level. If we were to, set a, like people leave and we have to set a scale, like the top being like, oh, this is a Ben Brode level exit, I think Alec is up there.
Yeah,
He's
he's
been
been very vocal. He seems to be him. He and Iksar have been like the dev touchstones, I would say, even to like a little bit of a lesser level Cora. But
you
I think it's
forgot
like
you forgot
what
our buddy, Mr. Purple,
Mr. Purple.
Celestalon.
Oh,
He's
Celeste.
also
Yes,
been
yes, yes, yes,
he
yes.
tweets sometimes. He tweets on occasion.
Yes, very true. But I think that like, well, like Iksar, we're going to talk about a little bit later on, does like the weekly the AMAs now, and I feel like Alec was always the dev insights person, I guess. Like
I mean,
he was like on
Alec was,
top of patch notes and being like, this is what change is coming, and this is balance stuff and nitty gritty things. Like, I feel like
Yeah.
Celestalon talks about all the fun stuff.
yeah. Well, Alec for the longest, before we got dev comments in the patch notes, Alec was our dev comments. Alec would
Yes,
just put
yeah.
out these string of tweets mentioning every change anytime there was a patch and explaining why the change was made. And like at the end of the day, yeah, I might be biased because to create Hearthstone content, but Alec 100% just made our jobs easier and more like, and up the quality of content being made. Because if you're making content around Hearthstone, if you were discussing changes being made in Hearthstone, knowing why the devs actually made the changes they did is so much more valuable than the three jackasses sitting talking into microphones going, I think they made the change because of this reason, unless it's Hat, in which case he's probably right anyway. But yeah.
I appreciate the ego boost, but I wasn't right most of the time.
My point,
Most
yeah,
of the time.
my point is like if I had a tagline for Alec leaving, I'm sad because Alec improved Hearthstone content and made creating Hearthstone content easier. On top of the
Mark
fact
in the
that
game was yeah.
Yeah, you had a hand in
His
making
marketing
the
game was
actual
super
game.
distinctive, right? Like he led design the past 3 middle sets. Um, Saviors, Skolo, Stormwind, pretty distinctive, and also was the final design person for so many years. But the counterpoint I'll give, and I'm not going to say that I'm not, I don't know if devastated is the right word, but definitely like kind of there's definitely a feeling of, like, the end of the Breakfast Club where it's just like, they're moving on to something better, but it's still heartbreaking that you won't have those shared experiences anymore. It's Alec was great, but you look at the people who have been raised under the tenure of him and this era of the team, and you're seeing a lot more Twitter presence and social presence engagement in general. Core is a big example. Leo Robles is active on Twitter. Atesh Tabayrak is on the Duels team, talks a lot about it, and is on Mercenaries as well. And we're hearing more from Gallon. We even got a Chalky tweet this week.
Mm-hmm.
Not enough from Boar. Boar, I think you need to say more things, even though I understand his hesitance because of the pre-existing tendency for blame there. And maybe just dial it down. And we're even seeing more tweets from people like Deck Tech, who was a community member, but then is now part of the team that writes the patch notes and is giving us these little tidbits over the course of the week. I think seeing about like a little under a year into the Ben Lee era, I think seeing how Dean and Alec in particular just really ramped up communication, along with Celestalon already being a very prolific tweeter, kind of set the stage for what kind of engagement made sense from a community interaction standpoint. And it was mostly after there was kind of this catharsis after Blitzchung, where after that cooled off, and there started to be a little bit of understanding that maybe Blizzard the company and Blizzard the people aren't the same people. That's still a work in progress. Still very much some people that don't get the idea that those are two separate things. But after Blitzchung and also after the rewards track, it just the nature of community interaction became a little bit different. And I think Alec was a really, really big part of that, of like telling us what to expect and not being afraid to reply or tell some candid development stories. He wasn't always on, but when there was something to say, he said it. And I really, really grateful for that. And also the lineage he left behind, because Gallon, Boar, and Chalky have all been working with him for a while now. And I think the lessons that he had to teach have definitely been learned. And I'm looking forward to seeing what the new wave of designers gets done. But we're absolutely going to miss him a lot. Remember that at BlizzCon Online, he was in the design thing for the core set and also the expansion, and also he was the Battlegrounds guy talking. He was in all of it. He was in
Mm-hmm.
everything.
Little busy.
Yeah.
Little
So I wonder
just
if
a
who's
tad
going to
busy.
step up into that role of like kind of being the generalist that has a hand in everything, because he was around for 3-4 years, which at this point on the Hearthstone team is quite tenured. So
I
I'm
get a similar vibe from Cora, because Cora tweets about multiple playable
Yeah.
formats within Hearthstone. I mean, they all do, but I don't know, for some reason, like I tend to always see Cora bounce between your standards and your Battlegrounds levels of communication. So that being said, it sure seems like Chalky is jumping up to take it by like bombarding an Alec adjacent thread in Iksar's AMA from the past week. We're going to get around to the AMA, but this is so related to Alec leaving the team that I wanted to mention it here, which was, someone tweeted at Dean and asked, hey, with Alec leaving, who's going to be in charge of balancing from now on? Alec gave a very serious answer, saying the final design team is now going to be Chalky, Gallon, and Boar Control, saying, quote, I'll still have oversight, as was the case with Alec, but I wouldn't expect any major changes in philosophy. To which there was another reply asking, hey, who's going to be in charge of giving spoilers then? To which Dean said, had some kind of offhand joke, to which Chalky just replied out of nowhere, Chalky has not been active on Twitter, by the way, which is why this really kind of riled up the Hearthstone fan base, saying, quote, you think I won't spoil stuff? The mini set has a 3-mana 3/4.
What?
And that's how I like to imagine Chalky delivering that line. So we're going to get a 3-mana 3/4.
Something so brave already. It's just like it's a big development risk.
How can we live in such an era of such gratuitous power creep?
We'll find a way.
How will we survive? How many weeks of Reddit shitposts dedicated to this do we have to endure?
Well, it doesn't say wins the game, but clearly that's the text on this card.
It's the implication.
Yeah, obviously.
I thought that we as a community decided that that's how we want Hearthstone to play. We want the game to go long enough to where we get to play the card that says wins the game. I thought that was the ubiquitous belief that Hearthstone sucks.
But then it would have to be a 12 mana 3/4.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. So not only do we're also adding 2 mana crystals? Or we're just playing
surprise.
exclusively
Alex gone.
Druid Shaman.
Throw out the window.
Okay. All right. Just make
15
just
mana crystals. Woo! Crazy.
want to make sure I've got all my facts straight. Turn 12 Hearthstone. Hashtag. I screwed that up. Anyways, expect more chalky tweets. We also lost a very famous Hearthstone player from Grandmasters. Tice.
I was gonna say, Garrett, you gotta figure out how to say this better, because that's like the third time now you've made it sound like somebody died. like,
Go for it.
they're not dying; they're just leaving GM.
Well, I mean, Hearthstone Esports is dying, so we need to have a eulogy for.
How can you kill that which has no life?
You're right. It died the day it went to YouTube, and it's basically just been haunting esports. This is what being haunted by the ghost of a once successful esport feels like. But yeah, Tice has announced that he will not be trying to re-qualify for GM after having relegated, and posted a pretty in-depth twit longer, which isn't all sad. There's some great memories and kind of reminiscing, especially if you remember the time where he could have won an Aston Martin DB11, but opted for the, I believe it was referred to as a quote-unquote life-changing cash prize instead. Which just means Tice is smart in all aspects of life, because Aston Martins depreciate super fast.
Yeah, always take the cash.
Yeah. I do I wouldn't mind owning a DB11, but yeah.
Would you mind maintaining a DB11? I would guess yes.
No. You take the cash prize, you invest it, then you buy a lightly used one, and you use your accruing compound interest to pay for the maintenance.
Man, this is sounding way too grown up and responsible.
All right, let's go back to smack talking Grandmasters. No. Yeah, this like hit me. Like, I haven't really been into competitive Hearthstone for a while now. But Tice was like among the first Hearthstone names I ever committed to memory.
Yeah, and he was very much a kind of staple of the competitive scene, has been for a really, really long time, even all the way through GM. Like, up until this season, he's had pretty great performances. I mean, like, that was kind of one of the big questions we had when they formed GM, right? Because there were a bunch of people who were brought in for like, what were they, community spots or something like that? I can't remember now, but there was like, some of them were very specifically like based on winnings or, whatever points and, kind of quantitative things. And then they had these community spots. And I don't think Tice was a community spot. I think he was a winning spot. But anyways, a lot of people were looking at the people participating in GM whose focus had been streaming, we'll put it that way, and saying like, oh, are they even going to be able to compete? Are they like, why are they even here? Blah, 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 blah. And Tice was like, screw you. I'm just going to win all the things. Bam. Like, he did really well. Again, up until
He's
this
an
season.
anomaly, right? Like, he is the biggest constructed streamer in Hearthstone
Mhm.
and the all-time tournament winnings champion in Hearthstone. It's the same person.
Yeah.
Like, most people aren't either of those things, and he's both, which is significant. He has a huge stream crowd. I remember I was listening to Firebat on a long time ago on an Omnistone episode, and he was talking about how he tried to prep for what Tice was going to bring to a tournament by watching a stream, and said, "This man has not played a real deck for 3 weeks." Like, he's regularly like top 100, top 50 with decks that don't
With
work.
craziness.
They
Yeah.
they don't work. They objectively don't work. And I think if you were to talk to most tenured Hearthstone fans of Hearthstone Esports, and you ask about what is one of the most memorable broadcast matches of all time, you go back to 2016 Worlds. You know the one I'm talking about, Joss?
Maybe.
The
They
Freeze
all
Mage
blend
Mirror.
together.
The
Yes.
Freeze Mage Mirror with Ostkaka,
Oh,
where
yes, 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 yes.
where he won because he pinged his own face
Yes.
to set up an ice block at 2 life instead of 1, so he wouldn't lose to the ping next turn. And that was the semifinals of Worlds 2016. Ostkaka took it down 3-2, swept in the finals. One of the most famous matches of all time from 5 years ago. And you can't really be you can't really have many more distinctions than being that big of a factor on a game's competitive history as well as its current entertainment level. It's amazing that he was able to do both, and also, I don't think that anyone genuinely loves Hearthstone as much as this person
Mm,
because he plays a lot all the time and has for since the game existed and has shown no signs of burnout. The closest we've gotten is this Twit longer, and he's just kind of like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna focus on my stream," where he on new expansion weeks, he plays 70 hours on the stream.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's the kicker, right? Is at the end, Tice writes, and I'm just going to read it verbatim here. Will this be the end of my career? Definitely not as a person in Hearthstone. I love the game, the community, everything. I love competing as well as tournaments, invitations, etc. Just GM is not the place for me anymore, and I will not try to requalify. There you have it.
Yeah.
It's not Tice leaving Hearthstone. It is just Tice leaving GM.
Yeah, and we've seen a few retirements come out of this season of GM. So we had Eddie, Muzzy, Tice, Surrender, and Blitzchung have all said they're leaving regardless of finish. And we do now know who's been relegated, and Tice and Blitzchung and Eddie were all relegated. So Muzzy and Surrender were the ones that had finishes this season and wouldn't have relegated, but are giving up their spots regardless. And it's the kind of thing where you know they're they were probably going to leave anyway, like Eddie, Muzzy, Tice, like these are guys who've been around for a very long time. Like they have lived and breathed Hearthstone for a very long time. So it was kind of interesting to see Tice say like I'm not leaving Hearthstone, because some of the other players have been like, you know what, I'm done, I'm burnt, I don't want to do this anymore, and they're leaving the game completely. So they're definitely kind of like two different exit strategies, but I think all of them highlight the same thing coming out of GM, which is kind of what we've seen throughout the entirety of GM. Like Dog was the first one to walk away, but for almost the same reasons, basically saying like it's not a lot of fun, it's not worth my time, I'm not enjoying myself. Why wouldn't I just go do something else? Like you're not making it worth my while to stay. And his was maybe the most blunt response of all of them. But I think most of them are echoing the same sort of ideas, is that GM is just not the greatest place to be. If you are in it and trying to stay in it season to season, it's an insane amount of pressure because of, and we've talked about this ad nauseum in other episodes, but with the way that it's set up and the way that Masters Tour is set up and qualifying and everything else, and they have tweaked it, but for a lot of people, it still very much feels like a relegation is like the end. And I think the best, like, example I can think of is Orange, right? Like he relegated, is that the first season of GM he relegated out of, or the second? I think it might have been the first.
I thought it was the first.
Orange, I think, was the first, yeah.
Yeah.
The
And
Orange was
like,
And
probably
Fino, that same season, Fino played at Worlds despite being relegated, and it was weird.
right, right. And didn't that happen to Silver Name too?
Yes, it did.
Is
Yeah.
he had his spot at Worlds, but then relegated out of GM, and that was weird. So, but yeah, Orange just really sticks out to me because he was a great player. The only reason he was relegated was because EU is just so damn competitive, and he lost on like the 18th tiebreaker. That's a little bit hyperbolic, but it was literally like the fourth or fifth tiebreaker that he finally lost and got relegated on. He's an amazing player, and he's been trying to requalify and, getting good results, going to every Masters tour, and just kind of like he's been doing well. But again, he's in EU, which makes it that much harder. And it's like, if even a player of Orange's caliber can't work his way back after how many seasons of GM, like 4 seasons of GM, and he hasn't been able to make his way back in yet, like that's just got to be soul crushing for every single person who's relegated, which then feeds into the feeling of like, this isn't fun. My career's on the line every freaking week. Like, there's got to be a better way to do this, which I think is kind of what the community has rallied around now is, can we please figure out a better way to do competitive Hearthstone? GM's not working. It's not working for the fans because nobody watches freaking YouTube. It's not working for the players. Like, there's got to be a better way.
Yeah. Luna shared a couple tweets about her experience, and she's not relegated, but she was
She
close.
was right
Uh,
on the line, yeah.
right in the line. And what she said in a couple tweets is that GM is basically the length of two Masters tours. Being in the bottom 25% of your region's best after 16 to 20 rounds just can happen to anyone. Just look at
Mhm.
past results. It's also hard to be results oriented in an esport that places high prestige on small sample sizes. GM has made me feel a million times more burnt out. Deck submissions right after we play only gives a couple days to breathe. I can't take a season off without losing my job. HCT
Mm,
allowed me to choose my engagement level. GM makes everything all or nothing. It's the
all
structure
valid.
isn't yeah, structure isn't player friendly. And Kibler had a tweet about how he advised on both GM for Hearthstone and Magic Pro League for Magic the Gathering MPL, which was functionally the same thing. MPL has since been disbanded. It started after Grandmasters and ended beforehand. And I
So that just means that Blizzard's not paying attention
maybe
or
or like
holding on too
GM's
long.
doing what it wants, I guess. Like it's Magic had 2 decades of competitive backbone and Hearthstone didn't. And with COVID and with Hearthstone being an online game, it made the idea of an online organization, it made a lot more sense and also was there to make them content. And that's what it did. As opposed to the global games, which people were turned on like, I don't know why there's Hearthstone in the middle of the week. I guess I'll watch this. What's going on? Um, Grandmasters at least is consistent and reliable, but it's not working all that well. And I think that's pretty clear from both the players. We even have a comment from Eric Elliott who works on it, saying that that revamp to the system is something they've been discussing for a while, and that he's feeling pretty good about what ABAR has put together. Not ready to announce or share with players, but we're working on it. ABAR is the new director for Hearthstone Esports that started this past year after Drew Lokazi uh, left relatively recently. And it sounds like there's some pretty clear awareness that maybe the current system isn't the best fit.
At least they're aware. I feel
Yeah,
like
I
they would
think
have to
that's
be aware when they're losing their big name talent.
I think that's the beginning and the end of any meat of that tweet though. Like that is it. It is just
Oh yeah, that's
they're
it.
just admitting awareness, and I'm just like, yeah, I'm sure you're always constantly working on esports. I'm skeptical because I don't think it's ever really been a monumental improvement. Um, Ever
Yeah.
from
And
one
Well,
year
I
to
don't
the
know.
next. Like it's just constantly been tweaked and messed with and operated on. And I don't know. I look at Hearthstone esports as like it's just Frankenstein at this point. It is so cobbled together and scarred over so many years of being messed with. It's just I don't think it hasn't had a really big win in a long time, and certainly not since making the switch to YouTube. And
Yeah,
it's
it's
just
really
weird. It's so weird to me as a Hots fan because we had it taken away from us. They just said it's dead. F you, it's gone. Hearthstone is a wildly successful game with and I'm going to use a technical term here, a metric shit ton of players, and it has woefully tiny esports numbers.
It's true. I mean, watching GMs, like there's somewhere between 2 and 4,000 people watching live on a lot of broadcasts. And I'm just sitting there going, "Oh man, like this was, I mean, world championships and obviously week to week GM is not on the same level as world championships, but like those used to pull in like 250,000 people or more on Twitch. And it's like now people want to watch the esports so little that like they can't even get like 5% of Tice's numbers. Like, come on. It's so sad. And I don't know, like, obviously the switch to YouTube, I know we keep harping on it and it is a big deal, but it was also completely out of the Hearthstone team's hands, right? Like, they were tacked on as like part of Blizzard Esports with it like literally in the whole like negotiation time and everything else, like they literally said, oh, we'll throw Hearthstone Esports in, whatever, it basically has no value. So like they had no say, they were tacked on at the end. Like everyone
Yeah.
involved wants to be back on Twitch. And when you do anything on Twitch, on twitch.tv/play Hearthstone, they still, if they haven't broadcast in like 6 months, pull in like 50, 60,000 people to watch whatever announcements they're actually able to do. So, I mean, I don't know what the solution is. I'm not a lawyer. I don't know what the contract with YouTube looks like, but like, I wonder if they just kill Grandmasters and then bring it back and call it something else. Maybe they could do it on Twitch. I don't know.
Are you
Maybe
saying that they go?
Grandmasters was in the contract and not like Hearthstone Esports, and we could get around. Let's look for a workaround, guys.
Are you saying they should Michael Scott it and just walk into the middle of the room and yell, "I declare bankruptcy," and hope that works? Like, I don't think that's, you say you don't know how the YouTube contract looks, and I'm going to go with, I bet it looks binding. I bet that's how it looks.
No. They could just log in and go, "I declare we don't exist."
If it's not called Grandmasters
where
anymore.
did Hearthstone Esports go?
And
Yeah.
I'm sure that getting in a legal battle with Google wouldn't be that expensive.
No,
No,
easy
not
peasy.
at all.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's not Hearthstone Esports anymore. It's Hearthstone electronic competition. That's we're leaving esports and we're going into e-competition. So it's not the same thing anymore, YouTube. You have no legal precedence.
Yeah, I don't know.
If the
but,
buzzword doesn't fit, you must acquit.
You missed your calling, buddy.
We've seen so much more egregious examples of things have come so into focus this year from the outside looking in about just how put upon the employees of Blizzard Entertainment are when it comes to decisions by corporate leadership that impacts the entire studio. And this seems tiny by comparison, but on a show where we do at least two-thirds of us talk about Grandmasters, it's hard to get around. This is while small in the grand scheme of things, this is still just another example of that. And none of this is based on our conversation. Well, at least for me, with anyone who works on esports at Hearthstone, I straight up don't know anyone. But it's just like, what do you do? I think you made a good point there, Joss, by saying by kind of just painting this picture of, if you were working on Hearthstone Esports when that call was made, I can't imagine anyone was stoked about it. Just going, oh, great. Now I need to make esports happen on a platform where we haven't built a home for ourselves. Like, imagine being asked to do that. Imagine being forced into that and trying to make a success out of it. It is an impossible task.
Yeah, and I mean, for whatever reason, and I think it's just because users of the platform maybe don't engage with live content the same way. But I mean, like, they have just had no luck whatsoever building an audience over there. And I mean, I don't know if that's because they're on YouTube and if it would be different over on Twitch or what, but like, man, it feels really bad. And it must feel bad for the players too, right? Because they're like, yes, they're getting paid week to week, but there's also a certain level, or there should be a certain level of like excitement and prestige and storytelling and all of these aspects within an esport and like any sport. And you just don't get that when you're only broadcasting to like 1,000 people. You can't get excited about what you're doing when it used to be so big. And now you're just like, nobody's paying attention to me. Like, that's got to be so demoralizing, especially with like compounded with all the other stuff that we know that the players have said about, like deck submission and how much of a grind it is and how they never get time off and all these other, terrible, horrible, awful, like working conditions, basically. This is starting to sound familiar. It's just like, it's just gotta suck, right? Like, it's just one more thing piled on them.
I have a very strange unit of measurement for this, and it's that Hearthstone Esports are the only thing that I consistently throw shade at where I never get a reply from anyone that they're butthurt about my comments. And it's because I think the audience is that small. Like I truly do.
Well, it's either that small or I mean, like it's just the criticisms are warranted, right? Like, I mean, as much as Hat and I
And
don't want to speak for
that's
Hat,
fair.
you can
But
speak up anytime you wish, Hat.
but when but when I throw shade, I also usually hear from people that agree with me. I hear nothing. Radio silence. Like I think it. I don't know. I don't always look at the world this way, but sometimes I do. I go, oh hey, what's hot? Where are people going to actually engage with something we talk about? Like, what do we include in the show? We include a lot. It's a long show. So much to the fact that people on YouTube go, this is too long. Why would I watch this? And I'm just like, whatever, here it is. And what don't then? It is what it is. But things got to get cut sometimes. And like, if I was looking at this like through a strictly business minded perspective, I'm like, why would you ever even bother talking about Hearthstone Esports? I see no benefit of it. I don't see it as like a sellable product or something that enough people are interested in to register on any sort of needle. And it's just weird to me because the game is huge.
What I was gonna say is that I think that both Hat and I can engage with esports and enjoy esports, and also realize that there is plenty to kind of criticize about esports, and hence why
That's fair.
where I think maybe some esports, Hearthstone esports fans specifically might be coming from, and therefore not adding you, because they're like, yeah, he's right. I'm still gonna watch. I'm still gonna like it, but he's right.
I mean, I don't think you will find people that say the current system is the best way to build excitement about people playing Hearthstone competitively. My level of engagement with Hearthstone esports may surprise you. I'm pretty sure you watch a lot more of it than I do. I usually don't watch on the weekends. I work most weekends. Sunday is usually my audio editing day, so like I don't have as much downtime. I'm not great at multitasking with the video stream open. That's just like not something I generally do. I usually don't watch the weekly Grandmasters play when I put it on. If I have the time and it's on the TV, I will watch the whole thing and be unable to be productive for the rest of the day. So it's usually doesn't end up being on. When Master Tours are on, I'll put it on. Um, the thing about Hearthstone, speaking as someone that I don't know if I'd call myself competitive in an esports sense, but like I like playing and winning, and I try and make my legend number go down. And when it's smaller, I feel happier about that. Uh, Usually, I'd rather play than watch. And I think Hearthstone's biggest problem is how accessible it is, because anytime that I want to feel Hearthstone, I don't want to watch somebody else playing it. I usually want to play it myself, with the exception of like Master Tours Finals. I'll throw them on, like, of course. And one of my favorite watching experiences, there have been a couple of really good ones. Watching Hunter Race beat Viper in that incredible 5-game set at Conquest Worlds in 2018, 19, one of those, 19, I think, was really great. Really, really incredible Hearthstone. Watching Lion win live at BlizzCon was unbelievable. There are those sports level experiences. I, Grandmasters just doesn't. It feels like you're trying to make the NFL with high school teams. Like it's just not a way. Not to say that these players aren't good, they are, but like when I watch a league, it's from when I watch the NFL, which I watch somewhat regularly. I'm watching a team that's been in the same city for 110 years. And if they lose, they come back and play next season, but with different players. And it's a team sport and an individual sport can't have the same structure. And Grandmasters and the Magic Pro League were built like being the NFL or MLB or NHL or whatever, but there's no consistency with who you root for because it's just a region. It's not a team with a different cast of characters.
It's trying to. It's also trying to be the NFL in a 1v1 competition, right? Like you're gonna NFL it with boxing? No, it would be absurd.
I don't think it works, and I think that a team name staying the same in something like Overwatch League or even HGC at the time, or that you see with League of Legends esports, you have a team that you care about, and then you root for that team. And if someone from one team goes to a different team, you talk about it. You have feelings, you have emotions. Whereas, like, if a different Grandmaster is playing, you're like, all right, well, it's this guy now. And it's just not the same level of emotional investment. I don't think it's the right structure. I
Yeah.
don't watch that much of it. I have faith in Abar because Abar, the new esports director, he was a Hearthstone pro for a while, like a competitor for years ago, and then became their production director for all the esports broadcasts. Then ESL took over. He was kind of in no man's land there. And then when the esports director for Hearthstone left, he stepped in. And if there's anyone that understands what's going on with Hearthstone, it is Abar, and I have a lot of faith that he at least will make a good faith effort as a person with ties to the scene to make it better. Don't know if he has the resources to do so, but it's clear the Grandmasters
That's a
ain't it.
big
And
question, right?
yeah, right.
That's a really good way to frame it too. Like you should, as light as that, the tweet from Eric Elliott was, it's like you should take some sort of comfort in the fact that the folks that are working on it have kind of come up in this Hearthstone on YouTube environment and they know it better than anyone else. So like if your key issue, and it sounds like most everyone's key issue on top of other things, is the YouTube thing, that's a bigger decision that no one on the esports team even has the capacity to make from what we understand. So not that I've seen anyone like dumping on Elliott or Abar or any of that, but like if you feel the frustration turning to the esports team on Hearthstone, like it's not their call to make where it's streamed.
Well, and I mean, Hat brought up resources, which I think is really important because I mean, like, these aren't stupid people. Like, they talk to the players all the time. They watch the broadcast, they make the broadcasts, they see what the engagement levels are, they know how players are feeling, they see the successes and failures within their system. Like, they're not blind. Nothing that we have said today is news to them at all. At all. And so I think what it comes down to is being able to build a system that is as successful as possible with whatever resources it is that they have. And I think that they probably don't have as many resources as they would like to have, because I think there are some kind of obvious fixes they could have implemented by now if they had the money to do so. Which kind of brings me around to wrap this up a little bit, to just to say, if that is the problem, if the problem is that the esports team doesn't have enough resources, they don't have enough money to make a more robust program, then maybe what they should do is bring back those esports bundles. Like, why this like limited time, one time influx into one prize pool thing? Like, just have a section of your store dedicated to shit for esports. Like, buy your pack here instead of over here, and the money will go to esports. Buy a cartoon Tice and he'll be the hunter and you can wear him instead of Rexar. I don't know. Like, there's a bajillion things that you could do to like raise money specifically for that esports program. So like, I hope that they do something like that if resources is what's holding them back.
Yeah. And there's a much larger conversation to be had here about how much money does esports make a game anymore, and we don't have time for that in this podcast, and there's no clear answer for it.
We don't.
What happened with Magic the Gathering is that they realized, hey, during the pandemic, we cut down almost all of our esports and our sales stayed the same, so why would we ever spend more money in esports? And I would not be surprised if Hearthstone's in a similar space, because the average audience of the game just doesn't engage with it, and the things that make them buy stuff aren't people playing at a high level on the TV. So I'm not surprised at all that more resources have not come to bear there. Will that change? I don't know. Will they have the money to do so? I don't know. Can they do it without the money? Maybe. I hope so. But it's just a question of like, why would the company spend money on this if it's not going to make it any back?
Well, but I don't think the company needs to. That's kind of the point that I'm getting at. I feel like other companies have shown time and time again that you can crowdsource your esports, and it does freaking well, because the people who like esports and follow esports will throw money at it like
Hearthstone
mad.
did this, right?
Yes, Hearthstone did this, and it sold out. They capped the payout in like a week, and it sold out. Exactly, it was ridiculous. Like, if you just had a way
Josh, your
to
dream hack
pay
is showing, and you're literally wearing the shirt.
I know. I'm sorry. Okay, I am no longer affiliated with them in any way, shape, or form. Don't look. Okay, I'm just gonna hunch down like this. Okay.
Full disclosure: Josh used to work for DreamHack.
I did.
No longer does.
No longer does. Have not for multiple years now. But the point is that I think if there's a way to allow people to give you money to run your esport, they will do so. It's a proven business model. So Hearthstone, give us ways to support esports, and we shall do so. That's it. That's all I have to say.
I have so many tangential rants I could go on that I'm going to say I think this was a wonderful talk, and I think we should table it there for now.
Maybe something for a future episode of Nexus Gaming News.
Yeah.
maybe something for a
Yes.
bonus episode where we like grab a beverage, maybe of the adult variety, and just sit here and go,
Tangent.
you know what I think about Hearthstone Esports? Yeah, I don't talk like that, by the way, when I drink.
Oh, yes.
I had a
know.
lovely little cocktail during this episode. It's empty now, and I'm sad, but yeah. Anyways, we have an Iksar AMA that happened, as they always do, this past week. There were some interesting tidbits here, other than confirmation from one Chalky that we are getting a 3-mana 3/4. We also got a hint from, well, Iksar himself, that we should expect a larger than normal expansion for the last set of next year.
So 4 sets from now?
Is this the one? Would this be the? Because Cora's like leading a set now, I believe. Yes.
If she's leading it already, then it's too late for that to be this one. Because they
Okay.
start a year in advance. So the set that she would have started leading would have been the mid set for next year. So we probably haven't even heard about who's doing this one. But yeah, this would be a year from the December set. This is the December set next year.
Gotcha.
But it's going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, mark your. Here, I'll cover my phone microphone. I'll do it for you. Hey Siri, remind me in 1 year to get hyped for a bigger final set of the year. I hope I triggered everybody's Apple product, and to Android users, I don't know, if Google Podcasts
Google.
wasn't so obnoxious, maybe I would want to mess with your devices too. Anyways.
Alexa, play Despacito.
Wow. Okay, that meme died quick, and I'm glad, because that song died. It means that the song died quick.
I love that song.
Yeah,
All right.
why are you hating on Despacito?
You know what? All right, I'm not going to shame you. I'm not going to shame you. I'm going to shame you. I do not care for Despacito. Doesn't matter. Yeah. So the hell does that mean? How much larger do you think? Somebody out there, please cap this and send it to us a year from now. When they say
The
larger.
question, how much larger do you think?
Yes. How much larger do you think? Also, if someone could update the show title, I would really appreciate it.
I'm scrolling up.
Thanks, Hat. Thanks.
I mean,
It's like, are we thinking
feel
this is
it
like?
would have to be noticeably larger, right? Like they wouldn't mention if it was like 2 more cards. It'd have to be
Yeah,
like-
they're not talking about an extra
big.
optical inch here. Okay, they're talking about.
Garrett, I feel like
Larger
you're
than
talking about
normal.
something else here. Do you want to spell out what you're referring to?
I'm talking about
Clarify.
card count. What are you talking
Yeah,
about?
what are you talking about?
Are we thinking single digit extra cards or double digit extra cards?
No, I think it's got to be big, right? Because I mean, they're actively planning to tell us and get us hyped a year ahead of time. Like you don't do that for an extra like 5 cards because you could just cut down the set and make it the normal size. Like 5 cards is nothing. But if you're like, nah, you know what? Let's throw in an extra like 20, 25, 30. Why not just make a normal set, but then smoosh the mini set in there at the same time and then also have a mini set? Because why not? Like,
So
that's larger than
DOD was
normal.
only DOD was 5 cards larger than normal, but all 5 were Galacrons. That was significant. That was
when
5
they're
cards more. but they were-
when they're
yeah.
when they're
When they're
ubiquitous
Galacron.
legendaries.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're going to be taking a break from quests, considering the current state of things. We're also still kind of in the anti-quest trenches at the moment, but
I was gonna say, yeah. I think any expansion they had planned for the next year that had quests of any kind in it,
Get 'em out of
like,
there.
nope. Do something else. Call them something different.
They've never had 2 cycles of quests in standard at the same time.
No,
It's always
yeah,
been
that's
a
the other
2-year
thing, too.
greater gap.
yeah.
This is the
Although-
shortest amount of time we've gotten them back. It was exactly 2 years from Saviors to now. Before this, Ungoro was over 2 years before.
What if they add questing ooze, where it just eats the opponent's quest?
They
Toxic.
could do that, but probably won't.
Oh my god, the art for the ooze, by the way, should have a yellow exclamation mark in its
I was
belly.
gonna say, yeah, a whole bunch of little quests in its belly.
Yes. Yes.
And we also don't know if larger means card count. Like, I don't know. Maybe
Explain
mana cost
yourself
will be
and
higher.
explain yourself this
Maybe mana
instant.
cost will be higher. Maybe the cards will be physically
What?
larger.
No,
I don't know. Maybe their art will be higher
Maybe the
resolution.
cards are
Physically
bigger.
larger.
Okay, hold on. There are cards in standard right now. When you put them on the board, they big. When you look at Frost Whisperer 10, they're physically larger on the board. I assume that's not intended. But so when they say larger than normal, we don't know what that means.
Oh
It
my
could
god,
be a
I
new
love.
class.
Oh, this is
Could be
so
a new
dumb, but I
class.
love it.
Okay, if it was a new class and
What
it
if
was
they made
larger
it just
because they
higher
added
resolution? They're gonna support 4K.
Pedaya in the chat room says all giant set.
it could be all giant. I don't know. Listen,
League
we
of
don't know
Giant
how it's gonna
Explorers. Rito is back and he's a dragon giant. Sir Finley
We
is a
don't
giant
know.
Murloc, but he's bigger than Gigantus. Elise.
we don't know the mechanism of the increased size. That's what we don't know. We don't know what thing is going to be bigger and how it's going to be bigger. That's what we don't know.
I can't not giggle. Yeah.
I'm going to just update the title of the show to increase size mechanism. That's what we're going to call it.
Yeah, let's just go. I don't know. Somebody insert Han Solo from Force Awakens going, okay, so it's bigger. There, just put that in there, please. Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine it's card count. It's got to be less than a mini set, right? Because you don't want to like usurp the excitement of a mini set by being like, it's 60 extra cards, mofos. Enjoy.
Plus mini set. Maybe
What?
that makes the mini set bigger too.
Maybe. I don't think
Maybe.
the tempo that's like the kind of the injection of excitement that comes with the mini set would make, like, part of my brain went, what if they just like include the mini set and they're just like, you get it for free with the new expansion. Here's the mini set's worth of cards and it's in addition to the whole set size. But my brain, it just, the mini set does so much to just breathe a little bit more excitement and disrupt the meta that, as kind of cool as that would be, we'd have a long drought of kind of standard regularity again. No one's giving me a number. I'm going to say 22-ish. I think we're looking at like the 22-ish amount of cards.
Well, yeah. I mean, you need a couple for each class, right? And then maybe a few neutrals.
Maybe some neutrals, yeah. Unless Galakron.
Like 25.
Damn it,
maybe.
Galakron is such a good example.
Because that's what they did. It was a third set and they made it bigger by throwing in 5 cards and the 5 cards mattered. What mattered was not how many, but it was what did they do.
Or were the Galakrons just in the set and 5 random did nothing neutrals were the 5 extra cards?
Maybe.
That's I mean, that's one way to look at it. But considering the number of extra cards matches up with how many Galakrons there were, it's a little difficult to make that argument. They should just add Galakron-like cards for however many classes by that point have booty quest lines. That'd be good. Yeah.
I bet
What
that
else?
what they
Oh.
do is going to be something that we don't see coming. Like, I bet this is some weird creative idea that we just didn't anticipate because
I think it's just more cards.
I don't know. I think if you phrase it this way, this is the setup for a bait and switch. This is what I would do if I was a developer that was being a little clever and I was setting up someone for a bait and switch. That's what I would do. I would drop this hint and then people would overanalyze it for a literal year and then there would be some other twist. Or maybe just more cards, I don't know.
I feel like more cards is the easy answer. I feel like
Since when have they done anything easy?
yeah, I know, but I don't know.
Yeah.
See, now you've got me side-eyeing this. I still don't think you've convinced me. I still think it's just more cards, but
We'll have to wait and see.
we will have to wait and see. Probably until like October next year. So maybe November even. Depending on how short they make their release cycle.
Hey Siri, remind me next November to talk to Joss about the big set.
I didn't hear your Siri go off.
Hey Alexa, play Who Let the Dogs Out.
Okay, please send all
gonna get
hate mail
emails.
to
Yeah.
@ridiculoushat on Twitter. Just tweet at ridiculous hat how mad you are that that song is now playing in your home. I am so sorry.
Who should they send it to?
Dear listeners.
Who?
Apparently, Dazzledorn in the chat room's whole house just went off.
Oh my god.
I'd apologize if I was repentant for my behavior.
I apologize for Hat's behavior, Dazzledorn.
Dazzler, I'm sorry.
Listen, if you donate if someone, if we get enough patrons to cover like a year of what we're currently making, I will kick Hat off the show. There we go.
I will not vote for that.
If you're that angry, put your money where your mouth is, and we will eject Hat from this program.
Listen, I also have a price. There is an amount of money. It's a big number. It's a big number. You have to pay me in mercenary coins.
Also, if you like Hat, I don't know, donate the amount of like a median house in Florida. We'll just start a studio house here. We'll just have everyone move to Florida. We'll get Joss a green card, and we'll just double down.
The biggest umbrella ever, because I'll never be able to go outside.
When we do an off-topic podcast episode at some point, we'll have to tell the story about how you almost died the day after my wedding going to Universal.
It was bad.
We're kind of already at an off-topic podcast, like right now.
No, it's fine. It's fine.
So what else did Iksar have to say?
Joss, I'm glad he didn't die.
Started talking about like the more diversity that we've seen over the course of recent Hearthstone, saying, quote, our intention, especially in the last few years, has been to try and create a more diverse set of characters. You can see that through gender, age, and human race diversity in characters we've created over the last couple of years. Starting experience, something we're looking at in the near future. I think it's less likely we'll update the art of a character to be a different race, but I like the idea of looking for existing cards of a more diverse group to represent the early experience. So that's good. I agree with that. I think just we've gotten so many more portraits and so many more characters, and it is certainly a more diverse crowd in Hearthstone now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A lot of them are original to the game too.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like there seems to be quite a lot of, I guess, flexibility on the Hearthstone side of things, as well as like I don't know if they just like, I don't necessarily want to say like creative control, but it seems like there's more willingness to branch out into a lot of more diverse groups. And they've done that through Mercenaries, they've done that through the cards that they've created, and because they aren't, kind of moved themselves back into the Warcraft universe as of the last two expansions, but before that, they very much were just off in their own Hearthstone world, which was great. So I think they're really taking advantage of that for a really good, and it's great to see more diversity in the game. I'm definitely one of those people though that like don't update a character and change who they are, like write a new, better, like specific character for whatever that gender, age, race diversity, whatever it is. Like make a new cool character. Don't just like change somebody who already exists.
No one is looking for tokenization. Don't give a character an attribute to shoehorn them into something that you feel like is missing in your game. Write someone that's genuinely identifies.
Yeah.
Are you saying that you shouldn't Harry Potter it?
Now there's a topic for an off-topic podcast.
Yeah, I am not touching that
Way
today.
off topic.
Exhibit A of tokenism. Every time Rowling opens her mouth.
That's actually, I think that the Lord of the Rings the biggest example of tokenism.
Oh, all right. How about this? Speaking of like portraits and heroes you might play as, the team apparently talked about doing an update with Hearthstone streamers being added to the Battlegrounds hero pool for a limited time. And now I'm trying to imagine how you would illustrate Sliss's face, but with the happy cow smile. And it is the thing of nightmares in my brain. So someone please take the reins of speaking from me now.
You'd have to put a little mini pirate hat on it too.
Happy Cow Pirate Slissa?
Yeah,
Iksar just said she would be Captain Slissa.
obviously.
You'd just be your own hero. Yeah. The quotes here are like, BG is a place where most anything goes, and celebrating community figures seems fun. Just have to find a way to partner that benefits everyone. I don't know. This is kind of rad.
All right. I would really, really like to lobby for an Angry Chicken hero in Battlegrounds. Just saying.
I'm down.
Just
Yeah. Rooster the Rooster.
saying. Maybe bring back Enrage as a keyword in Battlegrounds.
Ooh.
Not just saying, just demanding. Just demanding. Bring back Enrage as a keyword in Battlegrounds, please. Thank you. You can use my thought for free. It's all yours.
So, counter suggestion. Instead of the keyword Enrage, if you just use when damaged, that's good enough for me. I'm fine with when damaged. Doesn't have to be specifically Enrage with a colon. If that's a sticking point for you Hearthstone developers, and you're willing to make a chicken that has an effect when damaged, but not an enraged chicken, we can
maybe
let
they
that
just
okay.
make a keyword that's called angry, and it does what Enraged
Ooh.
used to do.
They can do it. It's Battlegrounds.
Or maybe angry could happen more than once. Like every time this takes damage, its attack value goes up. So if it gets smacked more than once and survives, damage just keeps growing. It just gets angrier. We didn't kill it. We just made it angry.
But then every single one of them starts with 1 health.
I love it. Wait, what? No!
Bamboozled again.
Daryl in chat room saying Garrote Rage. Yep, I love it. All right, let's take
Every
this to
time this minion
emails.
takes damage and survives, start a new podcast.
All right, I'm taking this to emails before this show goes 4 hours.
Hello?
Hello, it's me.
Hello?
Just quickly, do you get my message?
Yep.
Oh,
Hello, brother.
You can send your emails to tacpodcast@gmail.com. If you are supporting us over at patreon.com/TAC, you can write us right there in the Discord, or send us a message on Patreon, or comment on a Patreon post. I get alerted for anything that happens on the Patreon is what I'm trying to tell you. So if you're like really trying to get my attention, anything vaguely Patreon related, that'll get the job done. But Joss, who does our question come to us from today?
This comes to us from John T, who says, "Greetings, insert chicken joke. After last week's show, I had a thought on how we could continue to print cards like Crystallizer while still avoiding problems with cards that trigger on taking damage. Joss note here. That's basically just how do we deal with the Warlock quest. But still, I think interesting email. So
Are you mid-read editorializing?
I am
Okay, fine.
editorializing in the middle of John's email. John, I'm sorry.
Listen, it's your show. I'll allow it.
So John continues on to say, in Magic the Gathering, not all damage is the same. You have combat damage, non-combat damage, and life loss. These distinctions help by not restricting the design space because it can be specified which type of damage will then trigger an effect. Should Hearthstone do something similar? Could effects be worded as lose health instead of take damage? This could be applied in many different situations. Should it also be changed so cards that cost health instead of mana are considered life loss as well? You're not really taking damage, you're giving up life for the card. They don't have to change all self-damaging cards, but this could be a solution to the problem. I like this idea. I think it's really cool.
This is a wildly cool idea. I would say, while not exactly the same, I think giving Spells School of Magic, or at least some Spells Schools of Magic, is in the same camp. It graduated from the same school, even if the major was different, I guess might be how I categorize that. So it wouldn't be, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. I don't think this is an absolutely wild suggestion, considering the granularity we've seen applied to spells in the recent years.
Yeah, and I think that Hearthstone as a game is way more complicated than it was when it first started, right? To the point that it can support things like spell schools is a great example. Like I think that there would have been a lot of resistance to something like this early on because it's one of those like it's simple, don't complicate it, whatever. But now I think we're at the point where this could be kind of or could create some really interesting, well, like John said, design spaces. Either expanding existing design spaces or just looking at totally new ones like treating like the idea of non-combat damage really intrigues me. It's the one that I'm kind of like having the hardest time wrapping my head around. Like I understand combat damage, like somebody is smacking my face with something, and I understand life loss if you're using that as like the term for like choosing to give up life for some benefit, but I don't understand non-combat damage. When would I take damage if it wasn't one of those two scenarios?
Fireball. You get fireballed in the face.
That's
Not
still
combat.
combat though.
It is not. Combat is minion to minion or minion to face. Combat is like a minion hitting something, a minion attacking something. If a player casts a fireball or uses the hunter hero power, that is,
Oh.
yeah.
Oh,
It is worth
okay.
mentioning that combat is also a very specific phase in Magic
Oh,
as
okay.
well.
Okay.
So it is referencing like the combat phase that exists within the many phases of a single full turn of Magic the Gathering. So that's I think you could make an argument for that, but then that one I think it's more that I take issue with that one. I think that one is a little like too nitpicky and it's too difficult to explain. It's like, well, because I'm more with you, Joss. Like, and I came from Magic barely. I started playing Magic like a few years before Hearthstone, but like. Yeah, like you say, oh, I took fireball to the face. How is that not combat damage? Aren't you engaging in combat when you throw a fireball? Let's talk about the soul
Your
of combat.
intention is to wound my face. You are in combat.
The developers are going to listen to this conversation and take away 9 deck slots because we're getting too confused. That's what's going to happen here.
And we're gonna lose
Oh my
spell
God.
schools in the
What-
as well.
What Hearthstone
Hard
would
text
do
is
here
gonna
say
get more
minion
vague
damage.
as a result of this conversation.
Yeah. Hearthstone will say minion damage. That's what Hearthstone would say,
I
right?
was
Like
gonna
it would
say, I
say
could
minion
see
damage.
like minion damage, magic damage maybe, or yeah, but I guess specifying types of damage or at least the motivation behind taking the damage maybe.
So this is the thing that gets a little tricky. I can academically discuss with both of you the difference between paying life or losing life versus taking damage. But I think in a game setting, you would have to spell it out in some really weird way for it to be obvious, and even then people would post about it. Uh, this is not intuitive, and it's only intuitive in Magic because you have done the wrong thing at least once, and some person at FNM explained to you and gave you a well, actually, you actually just paid life, you didn't take damage. Like that's been I've both been the
That's when I
person
go,
receiving that info and giving it.
and that's when I go in my brain. I'm pretty sure you're right, but I'm so annoyed by you. I'm gonna call a judge anyway just to make you wait.
Yes.
Yeah.
And also, here's a thing that I looked up these cards. Do you remember the card High Priest the Call? Which is a Paladin card. High Priest the Call. It's a 3-mana 3/4 legendary. Battle cry, convert all but one of your heroes' health into armor. You don't take damage, just your health
Right,
turns
that
into
guy.
armor, right? Yep. Crystallizer. It's a 1-mana 1/3. Battle cry, deal 5 damage to your hero, gain 5 armor. Crystallizer is from the set The Boomsday Project. High Priest the Call is from the set The Rostakon's Rumble. For those of you keeping track at home, that was the immediate next set, and they changed how this worked. The next set, one set, was the amount of time it took them to change how this mechanic functioned. So there are times when Crystallizer is functionally different, in particular the Warlock quest, but also if you Crystallizer at 4 health, you die. And if you call at 4 health, you don't, because you take 5 and then you try to gain 5 armor, but you can't because you're dead because you just dealt yourself 5. Functionally different, but not in a major way that's really all that meaningful all that often. They could easily have Crystallizer just say, convert 5 health to armor. They could have it say that. It would be a weirdo card, but you could do it. It was already a weird card, but was only saw play when you were dark glaring people and demon seeding people and whatever. The way to make this simpler and less broken exists in the game and was in the game 4 months after Crystallizer was printed. They didn't change the card. They elected instead to ban the Demon Seed. I wouldn't be surprised if Crystallizer gets changed in the future. I don't mind the idea of exploring some kind of space here, but lose life or lose health versus take damage, really nitpicky. Think about how many times on the show we've talked about whenever versus after being relevant rules words. It's not intuitive.
Well, and Demon Seed already has found a way to make this delineation, and there have been other cards as well, which is just take whatever damage on your turn. That on your turn there spells that out. Now, if you still wanted to have that delineation and have it, I don't know, tied to, say, a death rattle that damages you when it dies, so it could, happen off your turn or anything, any other effect where you could get a benefit from being damage off your turn. Yeah, okay, then there's maybe a larger call for this, but as interesting as I find this, and I think there are pretty cool ways that Hearthstone could delineate within its own verbiage, as you mentioned. Like, what if it was you took damage from spells? Like, anytime you take spell damage, although spell damage already exists in the game, and that could get a little murky. It's like, wait, they didn't have a spell damage minion out; they just cast a naked fireball, and I took 6, and now I'm mad.
It's if you Thought Steal and Azure Drake, you took spell damage.
Ooh.
You took it. That's
a really good. Yeah. I mind controlled an Azure Drake. I took that spell damage. Where's my trigger?
You had it. Now it's mine. I took it. Trigger. But also, I want to clarify. Speaking as a person that is incredibly engaged with the game to an unhealthy level, I think this idea is cool as shit. I think it's super rad. I think the impact it would have on the game in general would be to make it less accessible, which is why I am arguing against it. If the game was exclusively players of our level engagement or higher, please go nuts. But I hope that we never get to the point where this is a good idea, because when this is a good idea, it means that the game isn't really getting a lot of new players, because this is so difficult to effectively explain in a way that makes sense without being screwed over by it the first time you see it. I would think that would be a lot of players' first reaction to this kind of mechanic.
Wasn't it Brode that told us we just have to play and learn how it works through doing?
We want to do that to a degree, but there's no point where when you read a rush card and then play a rush card, there's kind of that congruity there, it makes sense. I think the mechanic I'd go back to, once again, the Galacrons, remember trying to understand and then explain Invoke the first time you saw it. Okay, you tick up your Galacron, then you trigger the hero power of your Galacron, but you're not Galacron yet, so you just do whatever that class's hero power is, but if you're a different class, a different hero power.
Yeah, and I was still confused by that, even after playing it a few times. I was like, wait, no, I'm doing this. No, wait, I'm not doing the battle cry effect. I'm doing the hero power different. Okay.
All I'm hearing now is that we should have gone easier on Mercenaries, because even singular things are difficult to explain sometimes in Hearthstone, and they were trying to explain an entire new game mode. That's all I heard. Hat is a mercenary shill. Clearly in Blizzard's back pocket, has been planted on this podcast to make you buy packs you don't understand yet.
Makes sense.
Diablos and Mercenaries. There are 3 primevals. There are 3 of us. Do I have to draw a diagram? It's pretty obvious what's going on here.
Is it though?
Please don't make me draw a diagram. I have no idea.
Do you have a whiteboard? I mean, I've got all day. This is going to be really hard for the audio listeners.
Do you have a whiteboard?
Right there.
Do you have a whiteboard at your house?
Right there.
Wait, hold on. What? Why? What do you do with it?
Keep track of my extremely messy life.
They make calendars. It's a thing that's available.
But then he can't scribble angrily when I change something.
How many tabs do you have open on average, Hat? Because half the time I can't find my calendar.
Okay. There's an extension called One Tab. When you click it, it takes all of your open tabs and puts them in a list, and you get to close them from that tab. We're going to have a talk after the show.
Oh, okay.
You press a button.
There
and
is something to be said for having a physical thing to keep track of things that is always visible. Always visible.
Unless you're not in that room.
If I'm in this room, everything on that board is shit I do in this room and needs to get done in this room. It's very important. It's something I've added in the last year, and it has made my life a lot easier.
Thank you to our wonderful patrons over on patreon.com.
Yes. Yes. Because of you, I was able to order a whiteboard. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. John T, this is an extremely thought-provoking email, like wildly thought-provoking. Thank you for writing in. Folks at home, keep it coming. tacpodcast@gmail.com. You can also tweet at the show at tacpodcast. Folks forget you can do that. They don't usually. I love the memes. It's mostly memes, but you can also tweet questions. That's absolutely. I mean, you can really tweet anything you want. Please keep it PG-13 rated.
That's me out.
I learned a lot about pineapples today, and I might be a little gun shy.
See?
Yeah, if you want, if you want to know what we're talking about, you need to catch the show live Monday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern time on twitch.tv/AMoveTV because the pre-show is always weird.
It's true.
Also, don't tune in at that time this upcoming week because we won't be there.
Oh,
But
that's
Also
we are.
true.
Yes. Tune in every Monday except next one.
Yes, because Mercenaries.
Write it on your whiteboard 2 Mondays from now.
Hold on. Okay, we're gonna ASMR this. Here's the sound of a dry erase board dry erase marker being open. Oh, that didn't squeak as much as I wanted it to. That's a shame.
Oh, ASMR letdown.
Sorry, everybody.
I'm
Would you like me to
updating the show title to "That Didn't Squeak as Much as I Wanted"?
If you would like it, I could rub my hair very close to the microphone. If that's
Please.
No.
What is happening?
I don't even know.
that's all I
Audio
got.
listeners, Garrett is gently caressing his own hair on a microphone. I wish I could say it's the first time.
All right, that's going to wrap it up for this episode, everybody. Thanks for hanging out. Check out our Patreon if you want to support us. It is patreon.com/TAC. Get in that Discord. Get yourself a custom RSS feed burnt just for you that does not have ads on it. And also, huge thanks to our Patreon producers, Declan H., Jeffrey D., and Dustin C. If you want to be a Angry Chicken producer and get thanked on each and every episode and legitimately help us pay some serious bills, check out patreon.com/TAC. The back catalog of Angry Chicken episodes can be found at theangrychicken.com, or if you'd rather watch the video version, our entire video archive is available over at youtube.com/amove2. It's a numerical 2 on there. But before we leave, Joss, where can people donate money to a really good cause?
Oh, you threw me off. I was going to be super quick and just be like, these are my Twitter and Twitches. Let's go, Garrett.
I knew what you were going to promote and thought I would give you an in-universe segue.
I wasn't even going to bother this week because I feel like I talk about it all the time.
No,
anyways.
mention
Okay.
you're doing Extra
Okay,
Life.
I'm
Where
doing
can
it. I
people
am.
donate to your Extra Life to help you get over your personal Extra Life milestone?
Our team page is at bit.ly/TGI Extra Life 2021. If you guys would like to donate to our charity, we are benefiting the Children's Miracle Network of Hospitals. This is our 10th year, 10 whole years. And so my personal goal is a little bit higher this year. I'm just under $2,000 because I want to hit $15,000 in 10 years because those are nice round numbers and I like those. So yeah, if you want to donate to a good cause, again, you can go to bit.ly/TGI Extra Life 2021. That's for The Gamers Inn, which is my general gaming podcast, which you should also go follow.
Ridiculous Hat. When you're not tacking or making innuendo-laden show titles, where can folks find you making innuendo-laden show titles on other shows?
Okay, first of all, I don't make them, I document them. I don't take sole responsibility here. Second of all, if you'd like to hear more information from me and speculation on the magnitude of future sets, you can find that on twitter.com/ridiculoushat. Also, I talk about Hearthstone in other places beyond just here, believe it or not. Coin Concede, coinconcede.com. We make the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. We talk about the tournament scene a bit and an educational focus. And then the Vicious Syndicate podcast, vicioussyndicate.com. We take a data-driven look at the standard metagame. Find all my stuff over on Twitter and then more talking about Hearthstone from there. What about you, Garrett?
I'm Garrett Art on Twitter. This podcast and every single other one that I produce can be found at amove.tv. I would like to direct you to my latest podcast, Nexus Gaming News, entering its first full month of existence. I've got a brand new episode coming out tomorrow about some horror games that are making some waves in the last week because we are now in spooky season. If you want
need to really enunciate.
horror Horror games. Spooky games.
Scary games.
Scary games. There are some scary
Spooky,
games
scary
that are
skeletons.
Yeah. If you want to know about Skyrim's Thomas the Tank Engine mods reaching their final form, I have an episode for you tomorrow of Nexus Gaming News. If you want to learn just what the hell Choo Choo Charles is. So
How do you delete somebody else's podcast?
Come at me, bro. You should go listen to Nexus Gaming News, available as a podcast or as a very visually interesting YouTube upload over at youtube.com/amovetv. Other than that, I have rebranded my portfolio website. It used to be nomoonart.com. I still have that URL, and you better believe it's still forwarding to my portfolio website, but it is now createwithgarrett.com. I have put up examples of all of my video work, which I've been doing quite a lot in the last 5 years, and I realize I have no examples of it on my portfolio site. So it's up there. You can see my graphic design work, my video work, and there's a contact form there if you want to hire me to make stuff for you. So go to createwithgarrett.com, 2 R's and 2 T's. In Garrett, I trust you can spell the rest. That's going to do it for this episode of The Angry Chicken. Thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out, for listening, and for weathering my one-syllable pronunciation of horror. Until next time, job's done.
Job's done.
Job's done.